Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar where we will try to understand what we can do better to really have less abandoned and lost fishing gear in the sea. This webinar is organized by HELCOM in partnership with local authorities, International Environmental Organization, and funded by the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management. My name is Sandra Kroppa, and I'm very happy to be with you today as a moderator of today's webinar. And as far as I have seen the registration list, I see that also we are here very diverse audience. It's nice to have here participants not only from Baltic Sea countries, but also beyond. So I saw representatives from Greece, Spain, France, United Kingdom, and other countries. So thank you for joining us. And also it is very nice that you are representing really a lot of different sectors. We have representatives from NGO and fishing communities, of course, researchers, as well professionals from marine and water management agencies. And I'm very happy that some of you are representing two sectors at the same time. So greetings to all recreational fishers. As you probably know, new rules in European Union are already enforced on marking of passive recreational fishing gear. And so today we will raise awareness of it, and we will do it by exchanging knowledge, also sharing experience and best practice. In this webinar, we will highlight challenges regarding the implementation of these new rules. As well, we will discuss recommendations for further action, what we can do better to implement these rules even more effective. And as you probably will see now in our program, our work today will be divided in two parts. So before the break, we will focus on these new rules, on data about the problem and how big part of the lost gear comes from recreational fishing. And after the second and the third part, we'll continue the webinar with focusing more on experience of implementing these rules from different countries and also fishing community. I really hope we'll have a very fruitful day ahead, and you will be very actively asking questions and also sharing your comments. And I want to remind you that this is very practical webinar, so really be active and take part as much as you can. You can ask questions either by writing it in a chat or by raising your hand and saying it loud. And also I would like to admit that this webinar will be recorded, and both recordings and also presentations will be afterwards available on HELCOM's website. And now I wish you all a successful day, and I would like to invite Executive Secretary of HELCOM, Rüdiger Strempel, to open this webinar. Rüdiger, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Good morning to you and good morning to everybody else. And since we're still in January, I think it's still in order to wish everybody a Happy New Year, at least those I haven't seen yet. So a Happy New Year to all of you. I'm very happy to see so many of you, and indeed, as Sandra mentioned, from so many regions and so many walks of life and so many sectors around this table today, because actually today we're dealing with an issue that has been on my mind and on my agenda ever since the beginning of my career. And I have to admit, that's quite a long time ago, unfortunately. So that dates back about 25 years when I first started working for the UN, trying to protect cetaceans in the Baltic and North Seas. ALDFG, abandoned, lost, and otherwise discarded fishing gear, was already on the agenda, which shows that it's not a new topic, and it also shows that we really need to make some progress in dealing with it. It has also been on the HELCOM agenda for a long time. Back in 2013, our ministers decided to adopt a marine litter action plan, and that marine litter action plan actually contains some actions related to recreational fishing. But in 2021, that action plan was updated, and we now have an updated, currently active action plan dating back to 2021. And that one actually contains 10 actions related in some way to this issue. So it took this topic to the next level, because of course fisheries and also abandoned fishing gear have been identified as one of the main sources of litter and litter input in the Baltic Sea. Of course, household-related municipal solid waste and so on are also part of it, but fisheries are an important part of it. And this ALDFG, or ghost gear, as it's sometimes also referred to, is an issue. Now, in this action plan, we have one action, which is action RS9, which aims to investigate available options for fishing gear marking as a tool to prevent and reduce gear losses and produce recommendations to improve gear marking to increase the effectiveness of this tool. And that, of course, is what this workshop today is about. We need to mark this gear. Our work, and by our work, I mean HELCOM's work in this regard, is in line with the revised common fisheries policy of the European Union and the recent regulation adopted in February of last year, laying down detailed rules for the application of Article 55 of the common fisheries policy on the control of recreational fisheries, which among other issues focuses on the marking of passive gear used by recreational fisheries. And we're looking at Article 4 here to be very specific. And sorry, I'm a lawyer, so I can get lost in this sort of thing. But the aim of the webinar today is to improve our knowledge on the topic of marking recreational fishing gear and the role that HELCOM can play in assisting contracting parties, our contracting parties, in doing that, in promoting and facilitating that. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. And I'd also like to thank our colleagues from Chemo for taking this initiative, because I think it is a very topical issue. And as I said, back 25 years ago, when I started out, we were talking about it. We're still talking about it. I think it's time that we really took some serious and targeted action to address this issue. And I hope this seminar or webinar today will go a long way towards doing that. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. And I look forward to an interesting webinar today. I may have to sneak out somewhere in between, but I'll be back. So let's get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rudiger. And let's really start our today's webinar. And the first session will be focusing more on data regulation and action. As we all know, lost or abandoned fishing gear has many negative environmental and also economical impacts. And the first presentation will give us an overview of how much fishing gear is lost in recreational fishing. And let's welcome Joël Bazouk, Associate Director from Global Ghost Gear Initiative, with his presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me okay?
Sorry, we hear you very, very low. Maybe you can put louder microphone.
I think it's probably, yeah. Better?
Better.
Yeah, now it's better, yes.
Now you're good.
Teams wasn't using my headphones. I apologize. It's just past midnight here, so I'm trying to keep as quiet as I can while my wife and kids are sleeping in the other room. But hopefully this will. And can everyone see the presentation now? I'm sorry, I can't see anyone.
Yes,
because of the...
yes, we see the presentation.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the opportunity and to present on this. I think this is a timely topic. Once again, Europe leading on this, as Europe has been leading on this topic for quite some time. In a variety of different ways. So I'm excited to dive in here and give a quick overview presentation on the Global Ghost Gear Initiative and what we're doing in the recreational gear space. So understanding input from recreational fisheries to lost and abandoned fishing gear. I'll begin just with a quick overview. We're not going to go into too many details. I think everyone here knows what ghost gear is, but I think, again, being purposely designed to capture aquatic life, it is pound for pound the most harmful form of marine debris, is something that we should keep in mind as we go through this. And it's made of modern plastic, can last for decades in the marine environment, continue to do harm over time. When we're talking about the potential impacts of ALDFG as well, it's important to remember that it's not just about entanglement, although that's what most people are thinking about, but it can also cause habitat and benthic damage from nets, pots, and things like that. As well as a vector for alien species, navigation hazards, contribution to microplastics over time, as well as a social impact for recreation and tourism as well. So there's a variety of impacts of ALDFG beyond just what one would typically consider your entanglement type of issue. And the Global Ghost Gear Initiative is housed under Ocean Conservancy, the only cross-sectoral alliance dedicated to solving the problem of lost and abandoned fishing gear worldwide. That is the only thing that the Triple GI works on from a global perspective. Our goal is to improve the health of aquatic ecosystems, protect aquatic life from harm, safeguard human health and livelihoods. Each one of those goals is as important as the rest. So we try to take a holistic approach to this topic, no matter which sort of piece we're looking at, whether that's commercial fishing or whether that's agriculture or whether that is soon to be recreational fishing as well. We do have a global reach. Just to give us a quick snapshot of the 155 member organizations we have around the world, 24 member governments for the Triple GI, as well as signature projects spanning all areas of the globe, really trying to get as much global input into this topic as we can. And a quick snapshot of some of our members. You'll see a couple of familiar logos, both HELCOM and Chemo on that slide as well. So everyone has a part to play as far as we're concerned, from governments, the seafood industry, retailers, academia, NGOs, IGOs, tech companies. It's about everyone working together towards the same goal, trying to prevent fishing gear from becoming lost where we can, mitigate its impacts when it does get lost, and remediate those impacts through targeted removal efforts where it makes sense to do so. Quick note that we do work very closely with the seafood industry as well, whether that's commercial fishing or aquaculture, and hopefully soon to be recreational as well, which I'll get into in a moment. It's important to make sure that we raise awareness about the issue within the industry, as well as learn from the industry about what is realistic when it comes to implementing solutions that are viable, that are lasting, and that make sense for the industry. Again, we do have 24 member governments. We work actively with our governments, whether that's individually or whether that's through organizations like HELCOM that contain multiple member states to do risk assessments of national fisheries, ALDFG predictive modeling, a variety of different things to help governments achieve their goals when it comes to ALDFG prevention mitigation. And pivoting towards the meat of the presentation here, a series of documents that we have created in association with Poseidon Aquatic Resource Management, who helped draft these. And I'll give a shout out to Tim Huntington from Poseidon Aquatic Resource Management in the UK, who is on the line today. Good to see you, Tim. These documents were created to be comprehensive guidance documents. So referencing all of the different actors within the seafood supply chain, or those who touch the seafood supply chain in some way, have something to contribute towards the prevention, mitigation, remediation of lost and abandoned fishing gear. So we have two documents currently. We have the best practice framework for the management of fishing gear. So this is focused on commercial fishing, the C BPF as we call it for short. The best practice framework for the management of aquaculture gear, or the ABPF. So both of these documents cover those two categories of fishing. Again, guidance is across prevention, mitigation, recovery strategies, and designed to be incorporated into a variety of different things, including sourcing policies, CSR documents, fisheries management plans, etc. Really meant to be very high-level global guidance documents. But the one that's missing is the recreational side of things. And this is something that we are working actively with Poseidon Aquatic Resource Management to address now. And so we are doing a recreational best practice framework for the management of fishing gear, or the RBPF as we're calling it. And just a quick overview of what that means. I'll run through some slides about what that actually means, the scope of that document, some brief numbers of the current understanding of the global recreational fishing sector, as this is something that tends to get a little bit less attention than the commercial fishing side of things when it comes to ALDFG in particular. And looking at initial assessment for ALDFG with different types of harvesting methodologies and gear types within the recreational fishing sector. But again, this is still very much a work that is in progress at the moment. So we're excited to have the opportunity to present on it in its early stage here today, hoping that some of us can continue the conversation beyond this webinar, as Europe is sort of leading on the marking of recreational fishing gear, to see how this might be implemented within this document as well as beyond. And so a quick bit of background. as has been mentioned already, ALDFG or ghost gear has sort of become a much more high-profile topic in recent years, particularly for commercial fisheries. The GGI's CBPF has been a key tool, being referenced in several certification standards as the sort of the standard document to reference when it comes to looking at practical solutions for preventing, mitigating loss of fishing gear. And we're hoping that the recreational best practice framework will have a similar sort of impact within the sector. So the recreational fishing sector is smaller in terms of the harvested biomass, but it's conducted by a very large number of people around the world. So it's something that definitely has significant impact. And we've heard this anecdotally, no matter where we are in the world, whether we're here on the west coast of Canada, like I am, or whether we're in Europe, or whether we're in Asia, Africa, it doesn't matter where, there's a large number of recreational fishers harvesting around the world as well. And whether they're harvesting and keeping that fish, or whether they're catching and releasing, is something that we're considering both of those things for the purpose of this document, simply because gear is still being used and gear can still be lost in either one of those cases. When we talk about how many recreational fishers there are, our preliminary research indicates recreational fishers, it varies widely from 220 million, which is a World Bank estimate from 2012, to 700 million from a paper from 2004. And there's another estimate estimates about 10.5% of the total global population fish for recreation across the industrialized world. Again, not ubiquitous everywhere, but it is a large number of people that are participating in this activity in its various forms, which gives a lot of opportunity for gear to be deployed, and a lot of activity, or a lot of potential for gear to become lost for a variety of reasons. Whether it's line, lures, hooks, weights, traps, nets, it can lead to significant impacts on aquatic species and habitat, and sometimes that's through things like hooks impaling fish and or other species, inhibiting their ability to eat, or whether it's getting line wrapped around aquatic species, or whether that is rope or buoys getting entangled in some species, nets getting entangled. Doesn't matter what it is, there's always some sort of impact that comes with that. Also the lead lures, which there's a huge amount of, and taking a look at what does that mean for water quality, things like that. There's a lot of different aspects that we're looking at in terms of the impacts of lost recreational fishing gear. And so our working definition of recreational fishing is fishing of aquatic animals, mainly fish but not exclusively, that do not constitute the individual's primary resource to meet basic nutritional needs, and are not generally sold or otherwise traded on export, domestic, or black markets. So a bit of a distinction there between subsistence fishing and recreational fishing. They are different, and we're looking at recreational fishing for the scope of the best practice framework here. It is a global document, so we're looking at things across the globe, which means that it is going to touch on everywhere. However, this is something that also means that everything's done a little bit differently no matter where you are. So that's something that'll be taken into consideration when it comes to the recommendations, similar to the other best practice framework documents we've produced so far. We'll be looking at coast and open sea, but also transitional waters, brackish waters, still and flowing freshwater as well. So rivers and lakes are also included in the scope of the document. When it comes to fishing methods, mostly non-mechanical, so hook and line, spear and bow, small nets, traps. There's a lot of commercial fishing, or sorry, recreational fishing for Dungeness crab, for example, here in the west coast of BC, and as well as many other places in the world. So we're looking at all those things, as well as other miscellaneous gear types. And looking at the recreational fishing sector overview, there's comparatively little formal reporting and compilation of fish and catch, but the preliminary data that we've been able to find from seas around us and a couple of other sources indicates that about 909,000 tons of marine fin and shellfish are caught by recreational fisheries every year, which is not insignificant. And for the HELCOM contracting parties, about 45,000 tons per year of recreational catch, according to data from seas around us. In some countries, freshwater catch is dominated by recreational fisheries, like here in Canada, or in Uganda, For example, in Lake Victoria, the reverse is true, where commercial fisheries dominate freshwater fishing, but we'll take all of that into consideration. And for the HELCOM contracting parties, we're looking at an estimated 55 million participants in terms of people who are participating within recreational fishing, because that includes all of Russia, and in HELCOM, beyond just what's in the Baltic Sea. So, but for the purposes of our document, we'll be looking at that. And as for the initial gear risk assessment, in order to develop these best practices, it's important to understand the types of recreational gear that's in use, why it gets lost, and what potential impacts it has. And so when we're looking at the risk assessment of these gear types, we're looking at two main things. One is the likelihood of loss, how likely it is to actually get lost, abandoned, discarded in the first place. And the second is its impact once it does get lost. And you can see the sort of preliminary risk assessment on the right there is still being developed, not final, but something that I think we'll take into consideration when we're looking at recommended best practices. This preliminary review suggests that hook and line has the highest risk due to its very regular use, very low recovery rates, but also nets and traps are relatively high. Both could be easily lost. In many cases, people are less experienced when deploying those gears, have a high risk for entanglement, ghost fishing, and other impacts. Others tend to be a little bit lower risk, but we'll be further evaluating that over the process of development of this document. And with that, I'll perhaps pause there. There's my contact information. Thank you very much again for the opportunity to present here. Looking forward to digging into the rest of the webinar. Both myself and Tim are here to answer any questions that may come up. And we encourage anyone who is interested to get in contact with us if you have anything to share on recreational fishing, or if you'd like to be involved in the stakeholder outreach process as that comes along, because the document will be circulated to relevant stakeholders as we develop it, as we did with the other documents. And again, a huge round of applause for Europe, again, leading the way on the marking requirements for fishing gear. And I think we can, looking forward to digging into that a little more when we continue the webinar. So thank you very much, and I believe I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Joel. Also, people are saying thank you that you are joining us in such an hour, as you mentioned before. Any questions and comments to Joel now? Maybe you want to ask something, raise your hand, and then you can switch on your microphone or just type it in our chat section. If there is no questions right now, there won't be questions right now. We will probably have time also to ask Joel a bit later, just to double check if someone maybe has raised your hand. For a while, I haven't seen any hand. Still maybe 1 second to wait. Sometimes people just want to, yes, we have Marta wants to ask something. Please, Marta.
Yes, thank you very much. It has been a very interesting presentation. Now I am curious about the deadline, if I may ask about the delivery of the recreational guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is something that I should have mentioned. And I bet Tim, I bet you were probably wondering or wanting me to say the same thing. We're hoping to have it released at the end of September of this year. That's the goal. We may need a little bit more. That'll be when the document is probably final. We may need a little bit more time to design and actually release it publicly, but that is the window. So I would say sometime by the end of the year, 2026.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the very interesting presentation.
Thank you once again. Maybe someone else wants to use opportunity to comment or to say something or ask something to Joel. Seems that at the moment, no. So we probably will see maybe any comments a bit later. Sorry, I was just reading the comment. Yes, we can see that there is also message sent in, that contact Joel or Tim. Yes. Anyway, there's no question, but let's move further. And our next speaker will focus more on marking issues and what we can do to mark recreational fishing gear better. And this presentation will be given by fishing gear expert at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Haraldur Arnar Einarsson. And we will hear actually Haraldur also at the second part of today's program, because he's also a recreational fisher himself. So we'll share also his experience from fisher perspective as well later on. So Harald, if you hear me, please, the floor is yours.
Now you can hear me, I hope.
Yes, we hear you.
Perfect. Then I share the screen. Thank you very much. And thank you for putting up a webinar like this. I think it is very important to pass the information between us and talk about the things as it is. So, as Sandra said, my name is Haraldur Einarsson. I'm located here in Iceland, consultant at FAO, but as well working as a fishing gear technologist in MFRI in Iceland. The title of this presentation is Global Guidance to Support Marking of Recreational Fishing Gears. And let's see. Here we are. Yeah. This is the outline. A few slides I have, background and info and the timelines and the main references we are using in FAO with this. A little bit about why marking fishing gears and how to mark fishing gears. I guess that is quite important part. And the level of gear marking regulations and requirements. Sometimes not so much talked about, more focused on marking the fishing gears, but we mean that there is something more needed in most cases. Even the road need to be started to work on and develop further. Challenges for implementing and successful marking system is as well the last slide. So as Rutger actually mentioned here in the beginning, this is a long story, and marking fishing gear is nothing like a new thing to talk about. It started at least around the 1970s, and the international organizations have championed the marking of fishing gear with traceable tags for comparative ownership verification for a long time. Many meetings, different places on the world, and it have been. I have not taken part of it all this time, but it have been, as I understand, going like a wave, a little bit going under and up in different time levels. And for sure, we are on high level right now because people are addressing this as a quite big problem with global as a global problem, and ghost gears are coming up in many places as a big problem. The requirement for marking of fishing gear is expected to come in force very soon, and it will be globally, and you can see the timeline I'm showing here. There will be a meeting here this year. We have pollution prevention and response meeting number 13 this year, where it will take a next step, and it will go further over to the final process in 2027, and go for implementing into the for the world agreement in 2028, and 16 months after that have been done on meeting, we will have a global enforced, of course, though controlled on each country per se. So this is coming in, and it will go through IMO. Let's look a little bit about background info, and you might all of you seen those, but I think it is worth though to put up those references FAO have published directly. It was the first one here, which is the FAO voluntary guideline on marking on fishing gear. It has been published in several languages, and you have the link here. It's explaining why and how fishing gear should be marked, and some basic information about that all. Then we have the second one, that is the supplement 1, as we call it, a framework for conducting a risk assessment for system on the marking of fishing gear. And it's a practical framework to assess the need for gear marking and help design appropriate marking system built on guidelines. These are risk assessment questions in there, and we had tried this in one country where we was doing a risk assessment and see how from the view of the fishermen how that can be done and implemented. Then the third one may be possibly one of the most practical one, that is the manual for marking of fishing gear. That is the practical instruction for marking major fishing gear types, and it provides examples where to place the mark on different fishing gear types and suggestions of method of testing gear marks. That is in the annex in the end, because that might be needed for many places and many fisheries, many fishing gears, to find out what type of fishing gear is best to use, on what place it should be, where it should be placed, and so on. And can be a time consuming, as we need to have a mark to last the time of the life of fishing gear. So it's a simple instruction of how to test them. As we all know, and we know this quite well, is those why we want fishing gear to be marked. We want to have them traceable to the owner, to know the owner of lost fishing gear when we found it in sea or it is on the beach, so we can facilitate the return to gear to its owner if it is worth it to do it. But as well, it is important to understand where when fishing gear have been drifted far away. We know here in Iceland we are seeing trash on our beaches, which is coming for sure for long distance, but we really don't know exactly where it comes from. We only know it is not from Iceland, and we are all living in the same, around the same ocean, and the trash is going around. Understanding where it is coming from can be important to address the problem and deal with it. Environmental protection, market fishing gear is less likely to be abandoned and discarded. It is clear, but its loss can be legally registered or reported to the relevant authorities. Here I'm mentioning a little bit very important part. It's not enough only to mark the fishing gear. We need to have management around it. Complements and regulations. Market fishing gear is more likely to comply with regulations, especially when fishing license is required. Unmarked fishing gear may imply illegal and unreported fishing. So that can be helpful in that sense. So how to mark fishing gear? What we in FEO recommend strongly is actually two things. It has to be easily to read off, and we should have either like a ISO 3 alphabetic code of the country or the register system used. So if you see the country code, you can easily know that this is from España, for instance, here, and then you can ask the España authorities what this is meaning, and you have a gear from this country, even this is not from your own country. So marking the fishing gear only with the registration code by the country might be meaningless when it is coming to a different coast from far from other country far away. So it is very important to have it clear where it is from, country or registration system used. So this is the main part, two things, to have country or register system and the registration number of the owner. This can be in different way. It depends of the regulations, rules, and the community in each country, what is acceptable to use. For instance, I think a phone number would not be a good practice in Europe, but some kind of a IMO or MMSE license number or something like that could be more practical to have. Other way to do it can be using QR codes and things like that, but QR code could be difficult to read off if it have been in the ocean for quite long time. Usually if you have a letter or numbers, it can be, you can see what it is, even you can see only part of the letter, part of the number. You can find out, well, this is probably 7, and then you can easily see it. But if you have a QR code, you have no way to find it out if it is start to fade away. So other things to put in can be good to have. That is like a date. It tell you a little bit about how old it is, and could be a good practice to do, specifically if it is connected to a license for fishing. And then a date could be marked as at the same time. So this is license to fish with this fishing gear from this year or month or whatever it is. And that can be as well helpful to understand how long time it has been in the sea. Gear code, you know, if you have been on the beach anywhere and see a piece of parts of fishing gears, it can be very hard sometimes to know what type of fishing gear it is actually from. Gear code can be a good practice as well to have, specifically when it is in connected to license to fish or something like that. In type of gear like gill nets or pots and traps, a unique sequential number can be helpful, not only for the license and things like that, it can be even helpful for the fisherman itself to know where what number the fishing gear is and understand what number have been lost and have better overview of what is happening. So a little bit about regulations. There are not so many regulations around in the world already with asking fishermen to mark the fishing gear, but it is coming one by one and coming more and more. And in some cases, and I can say just like here in Iceland, we have kind of passive regulations for marking fishing gear. Simply saying to the fishermen, mark your fishing gear. But there's not so much instructions about how to mark the fishing gear, what should be right on the marks, and it is not, fishing gear are not registered. Okay, it's we can say it is simple, like if I compare it sometimes to the cars we have all around the world. We have more cars than fishing gears in the world, and we have them all tagged. All cars are tagged, and you can easily see very quickly where it is from and who is the owner. Passive regulation would be asking the car owner to mark his car, and he can just go out and write his name on the car and it's marked. It's not registered. It is not standardized how to mark it and things like that, but truly it is marked. So that is a passive regulations, and that is a practiced many ways, but that is a good start. Then we can go to the guiding regulations where we establish a basic standard for marking of tax design and labeling and a requirement for fishing gear registrations. So it is registered and we know something about where it is, and we can better connect it at it is managed inside the management system. Then we can go either further, and that is something we probably will not see in any country very soon, but could be the goal to go in the future. That is a comprehensive register system, maintains a full inventory of all fishing gear and its materials. So we know what it's made of. That is, when it comes back, you have it registered, you know what the material is in this fishing gear, and it is easier to recycle it. We know very well when foreign fishing gear is coming in netlofts in Iceland, they don't know what the material it is made of, because that is not material they are familiar to. Then it is usually simply not recycled because they don't know exactly the material ingredients. So this would support end-of-life recycling and foster a circular approach to the fishing gear management. So that would be like a kind of full way to do it. So we are almost into the end here. Here are a few points about the challenges of implementing a successful marking system, because that is not a straightforward to do. We need to keep a good records and report gear status as well as physical mark the gear to know more about the fishing gear in use. Are they new? Are they old? And see things like that, but that require a system. ID gear with the owner names or license, phone number in some countries could be possible if no vessel registration exists, because that is the fact. Especially around recreation fishery, you might have a boat with no names, you even might have no boat. So then you need to have license number of the license for fishing or the owner names simply or some kind of registration thing. Marker must last the lifetime of fishing gear and not contribute to the plastic pollution. So this is a little bit give and take. It's a very good practice to use plastic mark, because we can be sure it will last the life of the fishing gear. It will be there for next 700 years even. However, if we are using big markings and things like that, it is truly can be a plastic pollution when it lost with the fishing gear. If we use some biodegradable marking to put on the fishing gear, fishing gear could be there for 700 years, but the mark is fade away for a long time ago. So this is a little bit give and take, but I would recommend to look at a metal types of fishing gear like aluminum or any other type of metal and engrave the mark or the letters into that. Markers on tags must not entangle the fishing gear or otherwise affect the gear fishing performance. Commonly, this is not so much problem, but the most challenge here is around gill nets, because gill nets can easily be entangled, and if you put different types of tags on the gill net can be entangled on it, and it actually can make dangerous situation when fishermen are shooting out the net if like two gill nets are entangled together on the marks, for instance. So we need to have think a little bit about what type of gear mark you use specifically on gill nets. Marks must not pose a risk to the operator, ocean users and wildlife. This is a kind of the a little bit into the risk assessment part in our supplement number 1. I mirror here in this text here. So this was a little bit overview. Probably I could talk about marking for much longer time without problem, but generally, even it sounds sounds not so simple to mark fishing gear. It is actually very simple. In most cases, we only need to buy a good pen or use our little knife and mark a part of the fishing gear, and it might not cost so much or even almost nothing to mark fishing gear. But my only message in this is that it's good to start to mark fishing gear. However, we need to think about to have a system around it as well, to know how much is lost, where it is lost, when it is lost, and why it is lost, and work it out like that. So I think the marking fishing gear, only marking it, is only the start. Thank you.
Thank you, Haraldur. We'll hear you still, as I mentioned today, at the second part of the program. Any questions to Haraldur, maybe now, or please raise your hand, then we can see your questions. Tim wants to say something, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Haraldur, for a very good presentation. I'm just wondering, considering recreational gear, I mean, a lot of recreational gear is angling gear, which is not necessarily appropriate for marking, things like lures and lines, or very difficult to mark. I'm wondering, maybe in terms of recreational gear, there's maybe a focus more on marking unaccompanied gear, so things like gill nets, traps, so things which are gear set and then left to fish for a while, and then people come and retrieve it again. Do you have any views on how the gear marking work you've done with FAO and others can be applied specifically to recreational gear as opposed to commercial gear? Thank you.
You mean if you should mark them differently, recreation gear and commercial gear?
More, I think, in terms of gear marking, the presentation you gave was sort of quite a general one on gear marking, and it didn't really differentiate with recreational gear. And I'm just wondering if there's any sort of particular lessons we can have for recreational gear, given that it's generally it's not always licensed. The fishers not licensed. They may be fishing from unlicensed vessels and things like that. So I just wonder if you got any views on how it could be applied, particularly with recreational gear as opposed to the larger commercial gear. Thanks.
Yeah. As it have been talked about this in FAO, we always focus on that all fishing gear should be marked. However, as you say, when we are going with our rod to the beach and throw out an angle, it is quite difficult to mark. You're not going to mark every hook you are going to use or something like that. So I think it might be difficult to mark some fishing gears like that, specifically in recreation fisheries. And in many cases, and many places in the world, you can go and fish without license. You just have a right to do it, and you can go. But I think this is not the main problem in ghost fisheries and things like that. And correctly, as you say, is that the main thing to mark and most important is those fishing gear who is not handheld and will leave, because they have much higher risk of being lost. And there should be a strong framework in each country around those fishing gear, like pots, traps, long lines if used in recreation, gill nets, and so on. Even we know when we are running a survey in FAO with asking fishermen about how and if they are losing fishing gears, what we are seeing clearly that it's not right hand-on. But in commercial fishery, when you're trolling, they know exactly they in a way hold the fishing gear all the time, and there is not so much problem there. They are not losing fishing gear so much. We have the problem in those we leave and go away and go back to. Those are the most important fishing gear to have some rules about in marking and things like that. But it is a challenge, especially for for the root fisher when you are fishing with hook. Sometimes it might be possible to mark them, but it's most cases it would be nonsense to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make one brief remark as well? Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, the one problem about things like monofilament line, which is lost in very large amounts in the sea. I'm just wondering whether there's it's something we could think about in the RBPF, but if anyone's got any thoughts here, is whether there could be some level of traceability built into line, whether it be from certain manufacturers or whatever. So at least there could be some sort of understanding. Very large amounts of line are being left. There's some way of tracing it back to where it might be coming from. But it's an interesting question and quite a tricky conundrum. Sorry, anyway, I've gone on too much.
I actually see this is started to come into the market now, and there is some thinking about in the market to make ropes and things like that which are marked and traceable to the consumer who is buying the ropes and things like that. So I think in the future we might have some solutions like you are talking about. Even monofilament can be marked with a small micro markings in a way, but the technology is not there yet. Not implemented.
Okay, thank you, Haraldur, for your comments, and thank you, Tim, for questions and comments. As I remind you that afterwards we'll also, in the second part, we'll have time for discussion, so you're welcome to come up with your more questions. And now let's switch to how gear marking will help to prevent loss and what actually these new EU rules are all about. And this is why I would like to invite Edgars Goldmanis, representative from European Commission, DG Mare Unit 4, to tell us more about these rules. Please, Edgars, if you hear me, the floor is yours.
Good morning. My name is Edgars Goldmanis and I'm from European Commission, Directorate General of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, working in the Fisheries Control Unit. I would like to thank HELCOM for the invitation to present the new European Union rules on the marking of the recreational fishing gear. The title of this session is Gear Marking as a Tool to Prevent Losses. This is an important message because in the EU approach, marking is not seen only as a control or enforcement measure. It is first and foremost a preventive tool. When gear is clearly marked and traceable to an owner or user, it changes behavior. It facilitates return when the gear is accidentally lost, and it supports organized recovery actions. In that sense, marking contributes directly to the reducing future losses and ghost fishing, not only to identifying infringements after the fact. This preventive logic is to intervene at the stage where losses occur, not only to deal with their consequences. To briefly explain why these rules were adopted and why they are designed in this way, it is useful to recall the broader context of the revision of the Fisheries Control Regulation. This process started almost a decade ago and was based on the thorough evaluation of the existing control system. And a full impact assessment of different policy options. Recreational fisheries play an important economic and social role in the Union, and for certain stocks their impact is significant. For this reason, the revised regulation introduced specific provisions to allow member states to effectively control recreational fisheries, including through the reliable catch reporting, gear marking, and appropriate enforcement. The impact assessment showed that simply extending the full commercial control system to the recreational fisheries would not be proportionate. Therefore, the focus was placed on the key elements where EU actions brings clear added value, notably catch reporting and the marking of the passive recreational fishing gears. The regulation defines recreational fisheries as non-commercial marine fishing activities carried out for recreation, tourism, or sport. The relevant rules are set out in Article 55, which also empowers the Commission in the paragraph 6 to adopt detailed and proportionate rules on the marking of gear used in recreational fisheries, with the explicit exception of handheld gear. On this basis, and following extensive consultation with member states, the sector and the scientists, the Commission adopted in February 2025 the implementing regulation laying down the detailed rules for the application of Article 55, including the provisions on gear marking. The rule on gear marking for recreational fishers entered into force on 10th January 2026. So it's very recent rules. As you can see, the Commission had to create a new working group on recreational fisheries, consult member states by using questionnaires with specific targeted questions. The Commission consulted the sector and scientists and share results of the questionnaire and consultations. Revised control regulation entered into force progressively, with some provisions applicable as of 10th January 2024 and others as of 2026, 2028, and even 2030. The revised control regulation modernized the fisheries control system through the digitalization and use of modern tools. It explicitly strengthens the link with EU environmental policies, established rules for recreational fisheries, and provided clear legal basis for development of the further detailed rules on marking of gears used by recreational fishers. Why it is important to mention why these rules were established. Main objective is fight illegal fishing and reduce the impact and to reduce the impact of the abandoned, lost, and discarded fishing gear on marine life and ecosystems. Fishing gear constitutes an important part of marine litter. The EU study showed that 20% of marine litter is related to the fishing gear. And in the European Union, there are millions of recreational fishers, which potentially contributes to this marine litter. Therefore, users should feel responsible for the gear they use. The new rules also are in line with, it was necessary to bring them in line with EU Directive 2019/904 and also complement provisions for the commercial fishers, which already have been in place for decades. To define the content of implementing acts, the Commission worked in close cooperation with member states. and stakeholders. First, it was necessary to gather detailed information on the situation in practice. For this purpose, the Commission launched a questionnaire covering, among other such things, like the type of gears used in the member states, any by the recreational fishermen, any national prohibitions or requirements established by the member states for recreational fishers, existing marking rules, and whether these rules were aligned with our guidelines on fishing gear marking. As a result of the map in the corner, you can see shows that all Baltic Sea member states responded to the questionnaire. Results of the questionnaire revealed that gears that are used in recreational fisheries, that all member states have some restrictions on the use of the gear, that 6 of the Baltic Sea member states already have national rules on the gear marking, and 2 has total ban for use of certain types of passive fishing gear. As a result of this work, the detailed rules on the gear marking are laid down in Article 4 of the Commission Implementing Regulation 274 of 2025. I would like to briefly highlight some key aspects of this provision. The first is the scope. The implementing regulation clearly limits the marking obligation to passive fishing gear used in marine recreational fisheries and explicitly excludes handheld gear, such as rod or line. This is important from the perspective of proportionality and enforceability. The regulation also provides a legal definition of what constitutes passive recreational fishing gear, ensuring a common and consistent understanding across all member states. What is required, according to the Article 4 of the Control of Implementing Regulation, is that passive gear used in marine recreational fishery must be clearly marked so it can be identified. Member states must have system enabling identification of the owner or user. Contrary to the marking requirements for commercial fisheries, where all vessels involved in the fisheries are registered and have unique identifiers, the recreational fishers lack an EU-wide operator or vessel identification system. Member states specifically requested for some flexibility in these regards on the information that should be marked to permit linkage between the user and owner of the gear. Furthermore, member states may choose solutions that work nationally, but they must achieve set objectives of identification and traceability. For example, member states may use marks in line with FAO guidelines, like engraving, registration numbers, color codes, or electronic identifiers. The European Union approach is technologically neutral and outcome-based. The second key element is that marks must be of durable material, securely fixed, and not removable. The regulation also prescribes how the marking should be displayed on the and attached to the gears, and places where those should be attached. Additionally, the passive gear shall also be adequately marked to indicate the presence of the gear at the surface of the water or ice. This should help with the identification of the gear and prevent its loss. Annex 1 of the Implementing Act provides a list of types of gears used for recreational fisheries, and in line with the definition of the passive gear, the marking is required only for the nets, long lines, and traps. in conclusion, it is important to mention that as additional effect of the gear marking, it fosters culture of compliance and proactive prevention of the gear loss. It discourages abandonment by linking it to its owner, supports recovery efforts, reducing environmental harm, and enhances the accountability and responsibility amongst fishers. The proper paper can stand everything, but for the successful implementation, collaboration is a key and requires close engagement between the authorities and fishers, scientists, and other organizations such as HELCOM. We see that these efforts would contribute directly to protecting sensitive and vulnerable Baltic Sea ecosystem, aligning with EU regional and international environmental goals. To conclude, the European Union legal framework is now in place. With revised control regulation and the implementing rules on recreational fisheries, including the marking of passive recreational fishing gears, the policy and regulatory foundations have been established at Union level. The next and decisive phase is implementation. This is now primarily in the hands of the member states, which are responsible for setting up the identification system, organizing control and enforcement, and ensuring the rules are applied in practice. It also concerns operators and recreational fishers themselves in those member states and sea basins when the use of such passive gears is authorized. In this context, we very much welcome this HELCOM initiative and this opportunity to exchange knowledge, practical experience, and best practices among authorities, experts, organizations, and fishers. Such regional cooperation is essential to ensure that gear marking is not only a legal obligation, but an effective and widely accepted tool to prevent losses and reduce ghost fishing in the Baltic Sea. With this, I have reached the end of my presentation. I will give the floor to my colleague Joanna, who will briefly present the catch reporting requirements, which are another important and novel obligation for recreational fishers introduced by the control regulation. I will be happy to take your questions after her presentation. Thank you.
Many thanks, Edgar, and good morning, colleagues. We take this opportunity to present you very briefly. We don't want to scatter the public with a different topic. Today we are here to talk about fishing gear, recreational fishing gear, not catch reporting. But we wanted to take the opportunity because somehow this is also linked, we see this connection because as some of the colleagues already mentioned today, we have a very diverse reality in Europe regarding recreational fisheries, the rules, the context, the fisheries, and to know also what are the gears, what are the main fishing segments, what are the main fishing modes. All these, it's difficult still to quantify in our Europe. So I would just like briefly share with you a few information, a few slides to give you an idea of what we are now doing, and this, of course, linked with this Commission implementing regulation that Edgar has just presented. So he was mainly focused on Article 4, the marking of passive gear used by recreational fisheries, and now what I will share very briefly with you are let's say the consequences of the previous articles, so Article 2 and 3 of this same implementing regulation. But very briefly, just to say that here in this Commission implementing regulation that we invite you to have a look is very short. We set let's say two main types of reporting for recreational fisheries across the European landscape, and these provisions they basically set what are the species, what are the data fields that need to be reported by the recreational fisheries and by the member states. If we can go to the next slide, Edgars.
Yep.
So to be able to collect the data on recreational fisheries catches and to have a better idea of what is the population of recreational fisheries across Europe, we had to set up a system, a new pan-European catch reporting system, electronic system that we call the RecFishing. It's a system that allows the possibility for member states that had they had already their catch reporting systems in place, that they had already developed their own mobile applications to be used by fishers, to send aggregated data to the Commission regularly according to the rules of the regulation. But also we had 13 member states that asked the Commission to develop the mobile app for their fishers, and we are now exactly on that phase. If we can go to the next slides. So this is just a brief summary. We will then share the slides with you of the member states that are using their own reporting tools and the member states that are using what we call the end-to-end solution provided by the Commission. But for us, what is important is that regardless of the method that the member states are using to collect data from fishers, at the end, the 22 coastal EU member states will send standardized data on catches of recreational fisheries to this system that is the RecFishing. So you can see that in the Baltic, we have some member states using the mobile app developed by the Commission and others developing their own national apps. But at the end, monthly and annually, we will be receiving aggregated data, catch aggregated data in the let's say in the RecFishing central server that will be then made available at least for sure to the Eurostat for let's say to make them publicly available. Next slide, Edgars. So just to be very clear, the data flow is from the fishers. They report the fisheries, then it goes to the coastal member states, then the coastal member states send the aggregated information to the Commission, and then if you can click again, Edgars, this data will be the aggregated data will be sent to Eurostat and published. Next slide. So just very, very quickly to tell you, so this system has two main components, let's say visible components. It has a mobile app that is being progressively rolled out in the 13 member states that requested to use the app. So it's currently being used in Belgium and Denmark. Next week, we will have 2 other member states starting to use it, and we are going through a planned schedule to release this app in the markets, in the national markets. And we have also a web app that is for member state authorities to use, where they will have information on, you know, the FAO code, the species, the location, the type of gears used, the type of fishing modes. One of the components that now is, you know, very, there's a lot of curiosity around it is the Fishers mobile app, and here you have just a few screenshots to have an idea of how it looks and the type of information that we are gathering. And the next, and I think it's probably the last one, you can have an idea of all the species that we are from which we are collecting information. This species list is based on 2025 requirements, and we are now in the process of updating the list for the 2026 regulations. So many thanks for giving us the opportunity also to share with you this bit of information. We are very happy to, you know, to clarify, to send more information if you are curious. And I give back the floor to the main topic. Many thanks.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, Edgars. We actually received already one question to you. Nikos from Greece is writing, I am in Greece. If I download the app, will I be able to collect data, or since that Greece doesn't have an app yet, it won't allow me to put the geolocation?
So this is part of the complexity. Greece is one of the member states that developed their own app. I don't know if the app is already available for the fishers that fish in territorial waters in Greece. If you use the RecFishing mobile app, your data will not be transmitted your catch by catch data will not be transmitted to our central server because Greece has its own, let's say, database and collection system. So you will have the information in your history, in your app for personal consumption, but this data will not be sent to the, let's say, to the rec fishing central server in catch by catch information. So the 9 countries that are using their own systems, they have to provide their own apps, and they will collect the data first in their own systems and then send aggregated data monthly to the Commission.
Thank you. I see that there are hands. Please, Luke, Todd, please, the floor is yours.
Are we expecting full EU statistics then for beginning 2027? Is that correct?
Look, so I don't know, but you are probably aware that Eurostat currently has a proposal for a new regulation on fisheries and aquaculture products that says that Eurostat will be able to use data coming from DG Mare. So in this case, for recreational fisheries, it would be from rec fishing. So meaning as soon as there's the, let's say, the legal background, the legal framework for this transmission, we are ready to send the data to Eurostat, the aggregated data. So we are not going to send catch by catch data of these 13 member states because, in fact, the Commission does not have access to this catch by catch data. It's in the central server in their own space with their own access rights. But for the aggregated data that we will receive from the 22 member states, we are in close collaboration with Eurostat and waiting for this new regulation to go through, the negotiation process and have, the conditions to be able to publish the data, standardized data across the EU. Yes.
Small then change to the question. When do we expect all of the member states to have their collecting solution implemented? I understand that the EU is beginning to roll out the system for those member states that chose to do that system, but about half of the Baltic states are doing their own, and we just heard about Greece. Is there a deadline for having these implemented?
That's a very good question, Luke. And so from the 10th of January, the control regulation says that fishers have to start reporting electronically. So as you understand from a progressive rollout, at least from our, let's say from our tool, it means that not all of them have already the tool available in their countries, meaning that there's a transition period to let the fishers, get the app in their markets. And I imagine that it will be the same with the 9 member states. I know some of them have already the app available. For example, Spain, I know I've read the news this week, so they have the Pesca Rec available. And I don't know today what is the exact situation in the countries in the Baltic that are using their own apps. I know that some of them, they had apps already in use, but they had to be adjusted to be able to collect all the information that is required by the new regulation. So some of the countries are in this process. So to be sure, better to ask the authorities of these countries when they can have their apps available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. We have more question from Swam. Johanna, I see you there, but do you still have questions or comments?
It's me, Pelle. I'm sitting here with Joanna. I have a presentation later on, but I hope you can hear me all right. I have a question to the Commission there about the requirements to have a national registration systems for recreational fisheries. As I understand it, and with FAO's presentation in mind there earlier, does the Commission see that we have to have a national registration, or will you allow some more passive regulations such as name and telephone number on the recreational? Because the regulation only states that you have to identify and link the fisher. Do you see that linking the recreational fisheries to the gear needs a registration system, or will name and telephone number or address be enough to link the recreational fisheries? because you stated in your slides that it's a requirement that have a national regulation. But yeah, could you clarify a bit about your views on national registration system for gears? Thank you.
Edgar,
We can have the discussion later on, but a small clarification because we need to move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to respond to your question. Now, what was stated that it's for the member states and it's necessary to link the gear to the user or owner of the gear. But exactly how it is done, it is left, the flexibility is left to the member states to define what is the most appropriate way to do so. So the flexibility is there for the use FAO guidelines, and you can use different results, different methods that will help to or enable to do so, to comply with this requirement. But just creating a link to the requirement to report catches, that all recreational fishermen will have to report, be registered and report electronically fishing their catches. So in this sense, they will be already registered either through the application or the nationally or in a certain way or through licensing. So which element will be used to put on the gear itself, which will permit you to identify, it's left for the member state.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I see you still your hand. You received the answer, so you don't have additional question. No? Okay, thank you. We have one more question to Harald that we received during this presentation from Sylvia, and let me read it. So you mentioned a comprehensive marking system that includes information on the type of material the net is made of. Do you have any specific examples in mind? I was wondering whether the system has been implemented anywhere and if it could provide recommendations or serve as a success story for scaling up. Haraldur, could you answer the question?
Yeah, good question actually, and I don't aware about any practical example ongoing in this direction. However, when in many meetings talking about those problems and specifically recycling material from used fishing gears and things like that, we have addressed this problem that if foreign material is on the floor, and that is mainly when we are talking about big fishing gears like trolls, porcine or something like that, where we have actually quite much material to deal with. It could be a few tons of plastic on the floor. And but we don't know, it is not known the material made of. It's coming from some not known supplier, and plastic, even polyethylene, is not only polyethylene. It is many times there are some other material put into it, and it is very crucial to know what is inside the material to know to be able to recycling it. To solve this, if we have marked the fishing gears are marked anyway, either on electronic way or marked with a letter, to have some standard ISO markings, and there I know there is I'm aware there is a work on that to make some standardized ISO markings about material of the plastic used in fishing gears. If those are used with the marking, it can be very helpful for recycling it later on. And when the fishing gear is put in different parts and sent out further to recycling. So the thing is, this is not, as far as I know, in practical use anywhere in the world, but this is quite much in the discussion around when we are talking about recycling of fishing gears. I think this should be a goal in the future to go.
Thank you, Harald. Rebecca was asking, do the recreational fishermen have to report loss of gear, or are they reporting what gear they are using? To whom goes this question, Rebecca?
I can take it. It's just so according to the common data that needs to be sent to the Commission by the 22 member states. One of the fields is the gear. So the species, I was writing the answer in the chat, but is the fishing, the species, the FAO code of the species, the location of the catch, the fishing gear used, the fishing method. And in this case, we are talking about if it's from shore, from ice, underwater, or from a boat or a vessel. And they have also to send us weight, length, and number of individuals if relevant. So it means that if the member states have to send these monthly, it means that they have to have the tools to get this information from the fishers. So the answer is yes for the fishing gear part. For the reporting the loss of gear, we don't have any, let's say, rule in the part of the catch reporting. So we know that some member states have that in their own solutions, in their own tools, but many of them do not have. So that's still heterogeneous, the way to do it.
Thank you, Joanna, for answer. And thank you all for these questions and actively taking part in this webinar. We will now go to a short break and we'll be back in 15 minutes. I know that Edgars will be leading this webinar and go to another meeting, but Joanna will stay with us. So if you have any questions later on still to Joanna, feel free to ask. But as I mentioned, after 15 minutes, we are continuing our webinar about the practical issues of gear marking, and we will share experiences from different countries and perspectives. So see you in 15 minutes. So hello and welcome back. I hope that you slowly come back to this webinar. Yeah, I see that you are all here. Or maybe let's wait a bit. So if you have switched off your cameras, I'm not sure if you are back after the break. So let's wait a bit. Yeah, you're slowly coming back. So welcome back to the second and also third part of this webinar, where we will be talking more about the practical information about how to implement these new rules better and what are the experiences we have from different countries and also perspectives. In the first part, we already heard a lot about why it is important to mark fishing gear and how to avoid some mistakes that can be made. But now in this second part and third part that will follow without break in between, I would like to add that as well. We will talk more about what are also recommendations for the further steps and also perspectives from fishing community, how we can implement these new rules much better and more efficient way. So I hope that you are here and with us. I now want to invite on this our stage research fellow of the Department of Fish Biology and Fisheries at the Estonian Marine Institute of University of Tartu, Anu Albert, to tell us more about the situation in Estonia. I know that we will be listening now what is the current legislation and situation with the marking of passive recreational fishing gear in Estonia. And Anu, if I'm right, you will also share with us some of the challenges you're maybe facing.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. Sorry. But there was a message in chat that Bella would like to start. So maybe I can be after Bella.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. Okay. Then we change, right? Per-Olof, you want to start?
Hello, Pelle from Sweden. I'm going to briefly have a short presentation about the Swedish marking of and the scope of recreational fisheries in Sweden and what type of regulations we are. Can you see my screen correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Sweden has around 150 species of fish, crustacean and mollusks, approximately 900 professional fishermen and 1.2 million recreational anglers. That includes recreational fishers, fishing tourism, and etc. The category of recreational anglers together accounts for around 12 million fishing days and a total catch of approximately 28,000 tons. And this is on the west coast and in the Baltic zones, and also in our inland waters. That's the total catch. Every Swedish citizen are allowed to fish in public waters. There are, however, restriction on amount of passive gears that can be used for recreational fisheries. A maximum of 6 pieces of equipment, such as traps and nets, and the total length of nets may not exceed 180 meters. Foreign citizens are also allowed, but they are only allowed to fish with handheld gears in public waters. And we have 2,400 kilometers of coast, 5 large inland lakes, and approximately 1,000 watercourses flowing up into the coast, up to the first migration barrier. And that's the area where the Swedish SWAM has lost the word, authority to mandate to regulate recreational fisheries. All other waters are privately owned waters that are managed by landowners or fishing rights holders, more accurately. We don't allow allocation of catch between different categories of fishes. Just commercial fisheries have catch limits, but we have such regulations such as bag limits and different length of fish caught by recreational fisheries and such as regulations. I'm going to focus on our progress in implementing the new marking regulations and what we see. We need national regulations to complement the EU regulations, and what kind of problems or... Sorry? Was the mic open? Oh, okay, I will continue. My question earlier to the Commission was a bit is on this slide. There we have identified a difference between the passive gears used by recreational fisheries needs to be identified and linked. Also that the EU regulation allows the marking of the user of fishing gear or the owner. In Swedish legislation, we focus on the user. The owner has no legal part in the marking of the fishing gear. It's the user that needs to mark that fishing gear. So we are implementing national regulations both to clarify that it's the user of the gear. We don't have any gear registration, national gear registration system in Sweden. We don't have any national registration of fisheries as well. The only registration of fisheries will be the EU registration within RecFish. So up to this point, we don't have any national registration for recreational fisheries. And the current marking system that we have in Sweden are marked on the water surface, such as buoys or markers. And the recreational fisheries are obliged to mark them with a name and address or name and telephone number. So we don't have any registration numbers. We just identify the gear on the water surface with name or address or telephone number. We will not also, we have no obligation or voluntary way for recreational fisheries to report loss of gear. If they're lost the gear, they need to report it as a lost item to the police. That's the only options. We don't have any reporting system for lost gears for recreational fisheries. Those are all only for the commercial fisheries at this point. For the nets, we see as not a problem, but we need some clarification in national legislation. The EU regulation states that the nets needs a label attached to the first row, and we need to clarify, does it mean that every panel in a linked nets, if you have 3 or 4 nets linked together, are they only required to label one of the nets, or in the link, or each individual panel in a net needs to be linked? Do we need labels on both ends of the gear, so that when the inspector are inspecting gears, do they need to hold the whole of the gear, or do they just need to lift the ends to see if they are labeled or not? These are the things we need to clarify in national legislation regarding the nets. For traps, we have identified some translation errors between the English version of the EU regulation and the Swedish translation. In the English, in the English regulation, it's very clear that it needs to be attached to the gear, but in the Swedish translation, it's at the gear. So such small things we need to clarify in the national legislation, because the translation is not that good. We also feel that we need to clarify on large stationary traps like salmon traps or eel traps that are maybe a few 100 meters long stationary gears. They are classified as traps, but they are very large. To avoid that, the inspector needs to lift these large stationary gears to find the labels on inspection. We need to clarify more exactly where the inspector might find this label to avoid unnecessary handling of the inspector of the gear when they are fishing. For the labels, we are looking into adopting some of the the regulation from the commercial fisheries that are clearly readable and identified. We feel that the recreational the regulation for the recreational fisheries are not clear enough, because we are not planning to do any standardized labels for recreational fisheries. It's up to it's more like the FAO described it, more a passive regulation. So we are not forming any national regulation regarding this, how the labels should be formed for different type of fisheries. We're leaving it up to the fishermen to avoid such hazards as tangling. If the recreational fisheries find a way to label their gear, and the inspector find that it's readable and identifiable, we feel that the regulation is enough. So we're not going to do technical national regulations for the labels. We will try to keep them close to the EU regulation as possible. We are also implementing the new regulation in the EU regulation that the lines should be submersible or weighed down in such a way that no part of the cord reaches the water surface. This is also something we will implement on recreational fisheries as well as commercial fisheries. We're also looking into if it's possible to, like the commercial fisheries, there's you should not have any not marked or identified gears on board. We're looking into some way to adopt a similar regulation for recreational fisheries. We're investigating that part now. We're also doing a revised of our general marking system or our national marking system, where we, for example, are removing the ability to use white surface marking because they have low visibility. They need to be in some bright colors. We're also removing some exemptions that we have for shorter gears, that all gears should be marked at both ends. The national regulations in Sweden states now that short gears only need to be marked at one end of the gear, but we're looking into removing that exemptions. We have updated some geographical references where you should use your gear for more modern coordinated system for geographical references. We are also modernizing the regulation overall and simplifying the regulation. So this is the way that we are working with the marking system in Sweden. I hope it wasn't too fast. And if you have any question.
Yes, thank you so much. Any questions, please? Yes, so any hand maybe, or in the chat. Right now we don't have questions in the chat, but maybe a few minutes we can wait, or a bit less, because I know that you will be leaving soon, right, from this meeting, and
sure,
it's opportunity to ask questions right now. Otherwise, we will go
I can mention just briefly that the most struggle we have with recreational fisheries is just what I asked the Commission earlier: how we actually link the recreational fisheries to the gear to find a good balance between registration system and so that it's legally binding to so that when the gear is not marked well enough, we can actually sanction mismarking and mismanagement of the gear. So that's the biggest part we're investigating now, because we have up to now only had name and telephone numbers. Sven has a question I see in the chat.
Yes, so
when will the new rules come into effect? The EU regulations are in effect already, but as the Commission has stated here, that of course there are a time span here where the regulation is in place, but we need national regulations to be adopted before we can actually enforce and sanction and inspect these kind of rules. But we're hoping that to have national regulation in place in April, May for recreational fisheries. That's the time plan.
Yes, thank you. Some other comments or questions? We have time for that. Yeah, I see there's, no, it's just a confirmation. Okay, if what we are still having you here for a while, and if we receive other questions, we come up to you. But now I would like to give the floor to Anu Albert from Estonia, and we will learn the current situation with legislation of marking passive recreational fishing here in Estonia, please.
Shortly, I will show you. Can you see?
Yes.
I will try to get rid of the notes here. Can you see the notes also or not?
No.
Okay, thank you. then it's easier for me. Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present the situation in Estonia. So I will shortly talk about the legislation and requirements, then current situation and also challenges ahead. So first, a short overview of the recreational fishing gear and methods permitted in Estonia. So it's recreational fishing is divided into 3 categories. First, simple rod fishing, which is free of charge and everybody can use that. Then secondly is recreational fishing with up to 3 rods and other handheld gear, which is also paid with certain exceptions. And this fishing gear also must be constantly supervised and clearly marked so the owner can be identified. And the third group is fishing with a fishing card, which is paid. And basically, this fishing with fishing card allows small-scale recreational fishing with some of the commercial gears. And it allows fishing with 1 to 3 gill nets altogether up to 210 meters, with long line up to 100 hooks. And also you can fish with pots and seines and also some spear gun in certain lakes and do salmonid fishing in certain rivers. So when fishing with this passive gears, the catch report is required, even if there is no catch. And this reporting is done via fishing, local fishing permit application, web application and mobile application. And reporting in recreational fisheries in Estonia is currently required only with fishing with a fishing card. Okay, and this is the area, this is Estonia. And recreational fishing is permitted in the Baltic Sea, in the inland water bodies, lakes and rivers. And differently from some other countries, like 99% of water bodies in Estonia are public waters and accessible for recreational fishers. And of course, fishing restriction also, different fishing restrictions apply to recreational fishers also. So let's move on to fishing gear marking requirements. And first, I'm talking about the visibility requirements. All passive fishing gears, both commercial and recreational, must be marked with either flags or buoys. And flags must be red or orange, except for the bottom flag of a 2-flag sign. And also reflector strip must be placed to the top of each flagpole to improve visibility. And also if intermediate flags are used, the color must be different from the color of the end flags. And pots and traps must be marked with buoys at least 10 centimeters in diameter. And color is not specified in case of recreational fishing. And crayfish pots and kadiska pots, which are here in the photos also, they are allowed in inland water fishing also, only, not in the sea. For commercial fisheries, this, for example, lamprey pots must have buoys of at least 15 centimeters in diameter and must be red or orange, but not in the case of recreational fishery. So next, the identification. And all commercial fishing gear must be marked with the same ID number. Sorry.
Sorry, someone has switched on the microphone. Please mute your microphone if you're not presenting.
Okay, in Estonia, all commercial fishing gear must be marked with the same ID number shown in the fishing permit, so that the permit holder can be identified either on the water or by the permit issuer. And the permit number actually includes the county and the year it is issued. For recreational fishing with passive gears, the required identification is the personal ID code of the fishing card holder. And the ID number must be displayed on the flag at the both ends of the gear or gear series, or attached separately to a rod near the lower edge of the flag. And buoys also must display the ID number of a fishing card holder. And what is the current situation in Estonia? So there is a high level of compliance with gear marking, actually. Recreational fishers who hold a fishing permit generally comply with gear marking requirements. And when submitting catch reports mandatory when fishing with card, recreational fishers can use the comment section to report, which is actually meant to report seabird and marine mammal bycatch, but you can also voluntarily report lost or missing fishing gear. And the reporting unmarked gear is possible. If you find or discover the unmarked fishing gear, you can report it to environmental board via its public hotline. So it enables the follow-up and enforcement actions. So what are the challenges ahead? So the number of individual recreational gillnet fishers actually is increasing in Estonia, which may encourage the use of low-cost and easily replaceable gear. For example, cheap monofilament gillnets may be abandoned after damage or storms, instead of being repaired or recovered. Also, the labels are required the placement is on the flags for buoys, but not on the gear itself. So if the gear gets separated from the flag or buoy, the gear itself is still untraceable. And of course, reporting lost fishing gear should be mandatory to allow timely recovery, improve monitoring, and reduce the environmental impacts. And another remark is that in Estonia, the recreational vessels are shorter than 12 meters in length, or fishers do not use a boat at all. So when it's ice-free, the gear is set and taken out walking, wearing fishing waders. And when there is ice cover, the fishers also walk or use snowmobiles. So without these reporting requirements, lost gillnets may still continue fishing for years before being detected during service or cleanup projects. And illegal and unmarked gear is the main concern. And meaning the most serious problem is illegal fishing, which is difficult to trace, remove, or manage. And unmarked gillnets found in restricted or closed areas cannot be linked to responsible parties, limiting enforcement and deterrence. And targeted preventive measures are required to address these risks. And to conclude, preventing fishing gear loss must be a shared priority. It requires a combination of education, voluntary action, and effective regulations. Practical measures include limiting the use of high-risk gear in sensitive areas or seasons, ensuring that all fishing gear is clearly and consistently marked, and improving options for disposal, recycling, and reporting of lost gear. Gear marking, in particular, as mentioned previously, is one of the most effective preventive tools. It reduces conflicts and losses, supports recovery of lost gear, and helps distinguish between legal and illegal fishing. Mandatory marking, combined with a better reporting, enforcement checks, and increased awareness among recreational fishers, provides a solid foundation foundation for preventing gear loss in the future. And as a final note, we are now reaching the final stage of our Interreg Central Baltic project Reeffish, which actually addresses plastic pollution and recreational coast fishing in the Baltic Sea. And one of the key outcomes in this project is a development of the guidelines, participatory argumentation and mutual learning-based ALDFG preventive management actions. And these guidelines emphasize the importance of mutual learning and stakeholder engagement in these preventive management actions. Okay, that was all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anu. We have questions to you or no, or maybe comments. Please share your comments on or questions on chat or raise your hand and we will give an opportunity you to ask question to Anu, also of the previous speaker. By the way, we have received as well during this presentation comment actually from Joanna from DG Mare, which is useful maybe information for Swedish colleagues. Fishers who fish in Swedish territorial waters and register their catches using the Rec Fishing mobile app will be assigned a Rec Fishing ID number once they register or authenticate. The Swedish authorities will have the name, surname, and email linked to this app ID number. So this is useful information maybe for people in Sweden. Some other maybe suggestions, comments, or questions about the so far what we have heard. Any hands? No. Yes, Marta, you want to ask something, please?
Yes, if I may. Thank you, Anu, for your presentation. I'm curious about the Refish guidelines that you mentioned about the project. Are they available, and do you think that it could be they are relevant for the whole Baltic Sea countries? I mean, would they help countries to implement this marking gear? Thank you.
I think these are relevant, but as the project ends at the end of February, the guidelines are not public yet. So I think they will be published on Refish webpage, in Interreg webpage. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe other questions or comments? Otherwise, maybe I can ask some of you in the audience who wants to maybe share experience from other countries. We heard now these examples from Estonia and Sweden, but maybe other Baltic countries, or maybe actually not Baltic Sea countries, but I know have participants from Greece here actively taking part and other countries. What is the current situation in your region, in your country with this implementation and legislation about the gear marking? Please feel free now to discuss or come up with your answers or comments because we have time for this. Don't see any hands right now. Please raise hand if you want to switch on your microphone and use opportunity to exchange your thoughts. You can do it also in written form if you want. Maybe you can share some challenges, or maybe you don't have challenges in your region, in your country. Then you can share a good example on maybe some mistakes that we can avoid in other countries. Yes, please, Rebecca. You want to say, Rebecca, you hear me? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sorry, my computer is a little bit slow.
No worries.
I was just thinking about having the possibility of having it's being forbidden to have unmarked gear on board your boat. I think it was the SWAM who was talking about investigating that. How will that affect cleanup operations that pick up ghost gear? Because many historical losses of ghost gear are unmarked. So will that be a clash there? Thank you.
To whom you are addressing this? Sorry.
Maybe SWAM. I think Pelle left. So SWAM, perhaps, someone else.
Okay, so Pelle will come back. So if you have the possibility to write your question in the chat, he could address it when he's back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So unfortunately, he left on the wrong one. Yes, please.
I can maybe try to come with an input here, like a practical part. When lost fishing gear are taken up of the ocean, you usually can easily see if they are old. You have biofauna on it and things like that, and they are not rigged like a ready fishing gear to be used. So usually you will see it in a second on board on a vessel that it is old fishing gear retrieved from the ocean. However, this is a good point and worth to think about because it is possible that anyone might find like a pot or something like that looking like quite new, operative and possible to use but unmarked, and even possible that the fishermen have it on board but have no license to use pots or things like that. So this is a very relevant thing and should be looked at to make it easier for people to not to take it back to land, but if you have if you hit a problem, it might or afraid to hit a problem, the easiest way is to simply discard it again. So it's a good point.
Thank you, Haraldur, for commenting. We have from Nikos from Greece as well, question, comment, but I'm not sure to whom exactly, Nikos, you're addressing. Regarding recreational fishing in Greece, nets are not allowed. The majority of fishers are using, as already mentioned, rod and line, spear fishing, and in general gear that can't be marked easily. Do you think that the industry of creating fishing tools could swap to more eco products like the sinkers? The majority are made from lead. Shouldn't be there any regulation that can change materials like that? Who would like to take this question? Or maybe, Nikos, you can specify to whom you were addressing it.
This is a general question. I mean, from my point of view as also a recreational, I mean, if I'm trying to think any gear to mark, it's almost impossible from what I'm using. So as long as I'm losing any gears, that will be any lines or sinkers that they have the impact, as we already know that the lead or plastic can have the impact on the environment. So instead of, for the recreational, instead of marking, trying to find something much more difficult and something more confusing as a system to mark, to report, and to also solve this, maybe there could be any regulation that could ban lead, for example, lead, to be used as sinkers, as a tool that can be easily lost or on purpose can be lost because some people don't think of. You cannot hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. So, or give any motivations for the fishers, either recreational or professionals, to bring back, or to try bring back lines that are lost, or collect the lines that are lost and bring them back, I don't know, to recycling, because the lines, how do you call it? They are PP, polypropylene, and they can be recycled. just in general, it's not just a question, but I
It's like
understand
a
that it's
reflection.
really difficult to mark recreational fishers tools like this. In other countries that they use nets, it can be followed the same as professional fishers.
Thank you, Nikos, for your reflection. Yes, please. I know that there is a hand from Swedish colleagues.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. So I'm not following the process, but I think Nicholas had some, or Nicholas, sorry, had some relevant comments here. And I believe that there are a REACH regulation going on within the EU, which actually address lead in sinkers, but I'm not following that process, so I can't share any details. But to my knowledge, something is going on in the REACH regulation about lead in sinkers in regard to fishing gear. And also, I think it is perhaps relevant to look into the what's the name? The SAP directive? Single-use plastic directive, sorry for that, where we have a producer responsibility for fishing gear and how we there can actually help fishers to bring back their fishing gear for recycling. So I think there are some thoughts and some projects going on in that regard, but I'm not really following that process either. So, but anyway, I think there are some work going on in those regards, and it could be relevant to have some kind of exchange in the future about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was just to mention that Marta wrote as well in comment section that in relation to Nikos' comment on the use of more sustainable material, HELCOM has developed policy briefs and she is providing as PDF on this. Some other maybe reflections or comments, please, Christian, I see your hand.
Yeah, Christian Karl, my name from Sintef in Norway. Harald is sitting in our advisory board of our DSOLVE project, 8 years project, which started already in 2020. And I've seen a comment in a section about sustainable materials. We are developing that project bioplastics for marine applications, of course, with different possibilities. And that might, of course, also influence marking and for different kinds of fishing gear. We use more commercial fishing gear. So if you are someone who's interested in that, we are happy to share. That was the point. But I'm a material scientist or polymer scientist. Yeah, that's my background.
Thank you, Christian. Very useful to have comments like this as well. Any other who wants maybe to add some other thoughts or comments or questions or share experience? Please use the opportunity right now. Afterwards, we will also continue our program with a fisher perspective and the concrete steps for further action. Does anyone wants to add something still? Do we need to wait some comments? Maybe just a second. Raise your hand, please. Marta is saying thank you to Christian. And yeah, we ask you to provide the link to the project. Can you please? So small interaction between you. Any other comments or reflections? Still time. Okay, I think if we don't have any, I will just double check hand. No, we don't have. And also comment section is like it was just shortly before. I would like to maybe move further. And now let's talk about the community perspectives and recommendations for the next steps. And in this part of our program, we will focus more on recreational fishing perspective, and afterwards we'll have more interactive session where we will ask you questions and also comments. First presentation will be given by Arne Rusberg, chair of the Danish Recreational Fishing Association, and Arne will tell us more about the perspectives from the fishing community from the Denmark. Please, are you ready to share your thoughts about what's next or what should be kept in mind when thinking about the next steps to implement these new rules. Ahmed, do you hear me?
I do. I'm just
perfect.
finding this one.
Yes, so I see you as well.
Yeah. And you can hear me?
Yes, yes, we see you and hear you.
I need to start demarking. Yes, as said, I'm the chairman of the board of the Danish Recreational Fisher Association. In Denmark, there's approximately 28,000 recreational fishermen, and that's only gear fishing. Not lures. The lures is about 200,000. In Denmark, you have to pay a small amount to fish. It's about 33 euros for fishing with gear, and about 25 euros to fish with lures. We are two associations, and we are together around 4,500 members, and we are taking the interest of the members to the authorities. In Denmark, we started by mapping the problem in a collaboration between the Environmental Ministry and the Ministry of Fisheries. This work was coordinated by DTU, Danish Technical University, and the efforts of many volunteers. Especially, I would like to mention in Limfjorden, North Nature. It's a small association. They found the problem in the fjord, and they told there's a problem with the ghost gear. So we mapped most of the Limfjord and most of Denmark's coastal line for ghost gear. We scanned it, and subsequently the government granted money to have waste removed by boats that had the capacity to salvage the waste. The next new rules was implemented as a consequence of the pollution. New rules issued in according to announcement of 1st August 2023. The recreational fishermen is obliged to report gear lost at sea. The rules is generally the same as for pro fishermen, but the recreational fishermen did not have the rules at that time. In order to help understanding the new rules, there was made a publication on how to act when marking your gear when you lose gear. This is in Danish, but I'll read you the headlines. Marking of your equipment is the headline, and how you should mark your floating gill nets, and the line for the anchors, and rules of distance between a gear, and how to recover your gear when it's lost. At the same time, there's a number you can call if you lose your gear, if you cannot recover it yourself. This folder was financed by the Danish Fishery Tax Fund, and it is what we use now for fishermen, recreational fishermen in Denmark. At this webinar, the discussion is about marking gear. What is the expectation and attitudes toward it? First of all, we have over the latest years seen a significant drop in fishing license in the recreational fishery in Denmark, and that's due to a lot of regulations, The drop in licenses will go further down if new rules about marking of gear is applied to the regulations. The positive is if the gear is marked with your fishing number, you can always find the owner of lost gear. And I have here a picture of how lost gear looks like. It's something we found in the fjord when we are dragging. Negative is almost 99% of the lost gear found in Limfjorden was and still will be unmarked gear used in illegal fishery. And in Denmark, it is so that a recreational fisherman is not allowed to sell his catch. It's only for household. So there's a lot of illegal fishery going on. Rules will only be followed by the people who always follow rules, also as me and some of my colleagues. But the ones who want to fish illegal, they will fish illegal because the chance to get caught in illegal fishery is very, very small in Denmark. I've fished for 45 years and I have only had one control in 45 years. When we report illegal gear, the control sometimes, if they have the time, come out, take in the nets. They don't use time on catching the fisher. So you lose your net. They are not marked. They will not be marked in the future. You will only lose your nets, and that's the problem. That's about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Arne. We have questions maybe to Arne and the comments. The applause we are having. Thank you for your presentation. Before we go to Haraldur and back, maybe still someone wants to comment on what we have heard so far. Okay, in case we will receive more comments or questions, we will come back to you later. Thank you so much. Or sorry, Swedish colleagues, you want to say something, Pelle?
First of all, hello, you hear me? Yes. First of all, I want to thank for a good presentation here. It was a very interesting view. I only want to comment a bit on our view and how we're working with lost gear and recreational fisheries, and the part where I didn't address, but we have a similar problem in Sweden with illegal eel fisheries along the southern Baltic area, where we have a lot of illegal gears that are unmarked. But our view and our approach to marking and illegal gears are that the more that people are aware of how the gears should be marked, they are also more observant to illegal gears. If you know how your own gears are marked, you know when somebody else are performing illegal fisheries, and they can report it to authorities. So to say that illegal gears will never be marked, there's an effect of legally marked gears because the illegal fisheries will be more visible, and the people that are following the rules are more aware that when other people are not following the rules. So a good marking system and a good implemented marking system prevents illegal, or not prevents, but makes illegal fisheries more visible and more aware within the public and also within the people that are following the rules. That's our approach to that, illegal gears and marking and lost gears. So I just want to comment that. But thanks again for a very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you also for your comment. And also we received from Robert as well comment where is it good to look into following outputs of Interreg Central Baltic Project Refish guidelines, where is information about the preventive management actions of ALDFGs. And also we have a question to Arne to have you done any estimate on the volume of gear lost from recreational fisheries and what the main gear types are? Could you answer this question?
Yes, the main loss is gill nets, and for 45 years I've lost one time my nets, but I had the coordinates, so I found them myself. And the small community that I'm chairman of, we have this boat we use in the Limfjord to drag for nets, and we often find gill nets.
Thank you. Some other comments or questions? You can also raise just your hand and come up with your comments or questions, or if you want to share your experience on similar issues. No, at the moment we don't see it, and also in the chat I don't see anything new. Thank you, Arne. And now I would, sorry, Lisa, you want to say something?
I was just reflecting, Annie, could you elaborate on why you think it's gill nets that you find the most?
Yes, in the Limfjord particularly, it's lobster fishery, and the fishermen, the recreational fisher in the fjord is only allowed to use one trap and 5 small traps. That's not giving a lot of lobsters. But if you use gill nets, you can use kilometers of gill nets to trap lobsters in, if you use them the right place. And when they are too dirty to take up, they just let them stand in the fjord.
Thank you for your question and also for this answer. Someone else, Niklas, please.
Hi, yeah, I'm actually part of. Oh, sorry, forgot to turn my camera on. No, I'm part of the same reeffish project that Anu and Robert are in, the reeffish, and we actually gathered like some 8.5 kilometers of fishing nets by just dragging them along the Finnish coastline. So I mean, it's clearly a problem. And one of the things we also deduce that might also like be the reason why we lose many of these gill nets is just because of like people and like weather is like part reason, at least like during winter, because the Baltic freezes over up here. So like if people lay out their nets and basically it freezes and then it starts thawing again and then the ice starts moving, so it basically just pulls the nets with them. I'm not sure if that's the case in Limfjord and in Denmark. Okay.
Arne says no, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, I see that John Malmström wants to say something, please.
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you to Arne or to the discussion we're going to have. I'm representing the country board in Sweden, also inspection coordinator on the most northern parts of the Baltic. And I'm working long parts during the spring and the autumn with looking for illegal gill nets. And we do it mostly in shallow waters beneath 3 meters, where it's forbidden in Sweden in autumn and spring. And yeah, mostly, of course, people don't mark their gears because they are in illegal waters. But we find quite a lot of left out gears, and as one of I think it was Niklas who commented that we also have the problem here that people are fishing in late October into November, and they try to fish as long as possible until the ice is coming out, and maybe they don't really look on the forecast and the ice is coming out before the boat gets out. So we do have a problem with the ghost nets here, and most of it are not marked or not even tried to be marked. So a bit of the same problem as Arne was discussing in Denmark.
Yeah, so marking works for legal gear, not for the
Yes.
illegal.
Yes. Yes. And the
Yeah.
point is also that we, of course, as on a controller aspect, we don't have the resources to be everywhere. So we are, of course, moving in the areas where we know it's illegal to be fishing. And if I say straight, people are quite stupid if they would mark their gear in illegal waters.
Thank you for your comment. Someone else still wants to add? Okay, see you, Christian, that you provided with the information that was asked before. I understood from Marta. Maybe you want to add something, or you were just saying that you provided the information that was asked before. Someone else still wants to share something? Okay, otherwise we move to Haraldur again. And Haraldur, now you will be telling us a few more things as a fisherman and not the representative of United Nations organization. But please, yeah, the floor is yours as what you would like to add from this fisher community perspective on these implementation issues. Sorry, we don't hear you. Please switch on your microphone.
Det fungerar inte.
Yes, thank you. Now we don't hear you. Okay, probably you're telling us just a second. We are waiting. Here, while we are waiting, Haraldur, we still had a comment about the good solution would be given to discounts on equipment as a voucher discount card for recreational fishing. So when you return your old equipment, fishers could have some kind of reward for only legal ways of fishing for every country. So thank you, Maria, for this comment.
Now?
Yes, now we hear you.
You can hear me. Oh, this technique is so wonderful sometimes when it works. Yeah. This time I don't have any slides, so you just have to try to bear with me that look at my face when I'm talking. I can turn off the camera if you like, but I will keep it on. Here in Iceland, if we look at that, we have, first of all, we are not in EU, so this regulations which is going to be applied is not working here in Iceland. However, we have regulations which was applied here in Iceland 2020, which was kind of a passive way of marking fishing gear, like I was explaining in the previous presentation, for all fishing gear. And that was as well for recreation fisheries. Still, we have a different situation here in Iceland than many other countries, that the recreation fishery is not so much here, even we have it around. We have some mostly on with hooks, hand line hooks and jigging machines used and things like that, which is quite difficult to actually mark. They are not allowed to use gill nets from boat. However, there is some fisheries here in Iceland with using gill nets from shore for trout fishing and things like that. Those fishing gears used in recreation fishery here in Iceland with gill nets have been as a rule marked for decades, but not the net or gill nets itself. And that is the same as for the commercial fishery here in Iceland. We have been having regulations of marking fishing gears on the floats, on the surface for decades. And even when using anchors on bottom gill nets, those anchors need to be marked of the license number of the vessel. That is our regulations. We have been used here for decades. When this regulation came in Iceland on, there was something interesting, which is might be thing to think about when we apply regulation like this, that the fishermen might be aware about marking fishing gears, but they don't have they have a problem to find any marks actually to use, because the supplier are not following this. So I think it is quite important for when we are implementing regulations like this, that we have the supplier with us and they are ready to serve the fishermen with some solutions with marking. And here in Iceland, they are quite much using a mark which is used for marking animals like lambs and things like that. It's quite easy to use, and they are very cheap, and but they are made of plastic. However, they are easy to use, and the fishermen, most of them have found a way to solve this in that way. And another thing here in Iceland is that there's not a good follow-up on these regulations here, in that way that even we have marked the fishing gears, there is not, even it is clear in the regulations how to and mandatory to register if you lost the fishing gears. There is no good way to do it. You even don't have a clear phone number to call. You were told that you should contact the Coast Guard or authorities, but it's not clear where to contact. And so the situation is that we are not getting so good registration, and we are not getting so much information about lost fishing gears. Even in that level, that it sounds like the fishermen in Iceland is world champions of not losing fishing gears, which I'm pretty sure they are not. So I think the background from the management part for implementing fishing gear marking like this is very important, and working with a supplier who is in the first contact to the fishermen is as well very important to implementing this. Because when the fishermen suddenly see a new regulation, they are not happy about that. They will not be happy about it. One regulation more. And then they need to react to it. And they go to the store where they buy the fishing gears. And they say, I need some goddamn markings to put on my fishing gears. But the supplier don't have it. And that make frustrations. So preparing this very well is something we have learned here in Iceland is very important to have it clarified where to have those marks. I can point out that if anyone own a pet, you can go in a pet store. Most of them, they have a simple tool in the store. You can buy a beautiful pink pet mark for your dog or cat, and you ask the supplier or in the store to put the name of the cat or the dog in the one side and the phone number in the other side. Simple way to do it, very cheap. And this is possible to do, and I think the supplier may selling small pots for recreation, fishing, gill nets and things like that. We should try to prepare them to be ready for that. One thing about illegal fishing, so that is a comment and something we can look at, but that is more like the management part. There is a method to mark fishing gears which can be hidden with using, for instance, RIF marks, similar as put on clothes on stores to prevent vandalism, that people are stealing something. They are very small. They are like a rice grain or something like that, and can be easily put in ropes. And if randomly marked ropes for using in gill nets and things like that are marked, so when the fishing gear is bought, it is registered who is buying it. It can be followed up more easily. There's another thing as well, which I didn't mention in the FAO part, is that when using electronic marking systems, it is very important that that is not only used. We need to have written tags as well. The electronic tagging systems, in some cases, in those devices are with power, with electric, and they run out, and then you have no information. So those electronic marking systems themselves should be marked as well, and with a marking system. So I don't know if it is more I can say about the fishing here in Iceland, because the recreation fishing here in Iceland is not so much. It's in totally another level than in Europe, mainly because of the weather here is not so easy. And the main focus here is on the commercial, which is quite big in Iceland as well, but in more deeper water. Please throw on me any questions if you want to know more about Icelandic situations. Yeah, I have it enough now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have one question from Michael. Would it be a solution if extra cost could be added to the purchase of fishing gear and refunded when fishing gear has been taken ashore or accidentally lost? This would create an incentive to retrieve abandoned, lost, or damaged fishing gear. Would you like to comment something on this?
Yeah, this is actually done here in Iceland. And this is done in the commercial part. And they pay kind of a pint when you're buying soft drink in Europe and things like that. Then you get money back when you deliver it. So it is done here in Iceland in that way that if you buy a trawl or gill nets or anything like that, you are buying a little bit funding, and when you deliver it back, you get back that money. And that is working quite well. And I can totally recommend that. It would not be, though, here in Iceland for sport fishing or tools or something like that. That is not applied on those. Only in the commercial part for the big fishing gears.
Thank you. Someone else wants to ask something or comment something or add maybe to this previous question as well. Marta, please.
Thank you, Harald. I have a follow-up question because I think it's very interesting about the deposit refund system. You are applying that at commercial level, but my understanding is that maybe you are not applying it at recreational level because you don't need to do that in Iceland, or do you think that it could be possible to do that elsewhere? Thank you.
Yeah, the thing is, when we come to the commercial and look at the recreation as well, the sport fishing, that when you look at the commercial, you have more control on everything. There are fewer suppliers. This is a much bigger fishing gears, and they are booked in big numbers, like gill nets. They buy a lot of gill nets and things like that. So it is much easier to control it. When you go to the sport fishing, you have so many stores, even here in our small country here in Iceland, where, you know, we have a lot of different stores, even like Bauhaus, you probably know that. You can go there and buy fishing gears there. It's, you know, you can buy everything there, and fishing gear is one of the things. So it is much more difficult to follow that up. That's why I think it might come up like a frustrations part from the fishermen. If they are going for a sport fishing, they go into a Bauhaus and buy some pots, and they are going to use them, and then they found out that they need to mark them. So I think that is a challenge every country will have, that have those stores ready to supply those people who is buying some cheap fishing gears, very likely to be lost, to mark them on easy and very cheap way. So I think it is a challenge, for sure. It is not as much challenge for commercial.
Thank you, Haraldur. Someone else wants still to add something? Something more? Rebecca writing at and people order online. Yeah, you are commenting on what we have heard till now. Okay, seems that we don't have any more questions, right? If what, please raise your hand now. Otherwise, we are going now to a very interactive part of this webinar. We will kindly ask you to open the Menti.com webpage or scan the QR code. Can we see now on the screen, please, what we need to do? And when you open the Menti.com, please use the code that will be probably now seen on screen as well. Otherwise, I can tell you that you need to use 46436834. Can you see the code? I don't see if you can see the code, sorry. Yeah, I can't see anything.
It's on its way. Just give it a second.
It's on its way. Okay, so just a second. Otherwise, I repeat the code if you want to do it manually. 46436834. So, or scan the QR code. And now we will have few questions, and you will be maybe asked to provide some answers or rank some answers. And so we can see actually what is on your mind if we talk about the recommendations and next steps, what we can do to really mark fishing gear better and to understand what we are missing still to do it better. And you will see on the screen the things that we already are writing on this Menti.com platform. Are you ready to answer the questions already? Do you have you opened the Menti.com, or you still need some time? Yes, so okay. There's one question, first question, which we will now see on the screen probably as well. Which we'll see. What are the best practices for marking of passive recreational fishing gear? And add please to the list your answers. And of course, if you want to comment something while we are seeing these answers, please feel free to do it by raising your hand and switching on your microphone. Or at the end, of course, as well, you are very welcome to come up with your comments on what we have seen so far. But what we see now, that what your opinion on best practices are like laser engraving on sturdy floats, a mark with country code, ownership ID, license number, date, gear code, unique sequential number, what we have seen actually in the presentation as well. Use electronic marks in combination with transitional marks. Use color codes by area so that authorities immediately know where drifting gear comes from. Reporting system for lost gear in place need to be. Metal marking with the fishing license code need to be added to this marking. Durable, long-lasting materials. Reporting system the same. Yeah, we can see from Estonia twice you answered this. Metallic marks, not plastic, you answer as well. Also metallic marks, so you can see that a lot of ideas come that need to be metallic marks and not need to be used plastic. For this marking process, I see that some other as well comment. Sorry, I can't see exactly what is there written because of the screen. Yeah. Mark the gear with multiple tags in different places of the net, so that's still possible to read the information if we are only retrieve a part of the net, what we heard as well during the presentation, I think once. Metal marks and country codes, of course, important. Whatever the requirements are, they need to be practical, economically realistic, and as Haraldur mentioned, really available. Rec fishers also need to be aware that these requirements exist. Yeah, this is about the information and communication, which is very, very important. Okay, thank you for your answers. Let's move to the next question. Thank you for active taking part in this Mentimeter. And now, which challenges are most important to address? We don't say, but how can HELCOM support contracting parties and recreational fishers to implement the new EU rules? Please let us know your ideas. We see already that cross-border harmonization is needed in areas like the Baltic. Fishermen may cross several jurisdictions. HELCOM should ensure the marking formats are mutually recognized to avoid unfair penalties. It's about the fairness. Also about the shared database, we have a recommendation that HELCOM should encourage a centralized registry where a market gear found in one country can be easily tracked back to its owner in another member state. Please let us know another more. Yes, knowledge sharing like this. Thank you. This is what is needed, but also maybe some other ideas. Exchange of good practice. Of course, as always, please let us know maybe some other ideas, what you would like to share, or maybe your suggestions. What support actually need from HELCOM. Let's wait, maybe some other ideas are coming. Shared database, yeah, of course, about the data. We also heard today a lot in question box. Maybe someone wants to comment more about the question box, what you mean by this. So we have time. Someone wants to explain maybe your opinion more? No, you're very busy answering the question. Okay, let's move then further. So far we have received quite a lot already answers. How can contracting parties support recreational fishers to implement the new EU rules? And there we can see about the administrative simplification. Marking should be automatically linked to the fisher's registration number, mandatory since the 2023 regulation. The fisher should not have to create a new complex ID. And also we have received the answer that logistical support is needed. Create recycling zones in marinas where fishers can drop off their old non-compliant nets free of charge in exchange for approved marking kits at a reduced price, something that we almost as well heard from the comment sections before. Maybe something else you want to add about the support that recreational fishers could have and what could help to implement these new rules. So strong and long-term outreach. Very nice. Maybe some other ideas and other comments. Let's wait just a bit. Or will we receive still more comments? And nope. Okay, let's move further. Simplification on rules and information, and the EU rules are in general. Contracting parties need to be aware of other states' interpretations of the EU rules and raise the awareness of public why important to mark. Yes, again, about the information and awareness raising, everything what we are doing today and probably will be doing also in the nearest future. The question why it is important to mark, still very popular. And as we heard today, for prevention, marking is the most important. Thank you with these answers. Do we have more questions that we can share right now? The ranking as well, please. Next slide. We heard about the common database lately as well. So, okay, which of the best practice do you think will reduce gear loss most effectively? And as I understood this questions, as these answers, you can just rank and vote for them. And let's see if you are thinking about the proper maintenance of a gear, advanced technology, gear marking, strategic gear setting practices, or information campaigns. Of course, information and about the best practices and how to reduce gear loss is very popular, and maintenance as well. Let's see how gear marking will be popular. And yes, so what else we can do? Let's wait your answers. About the technology, very popular as well. Okay, now gear marking comes in the third place. Yes, you are still answering, so let's wait a bit. These guidelines, I think this is information that takes from HELCOM guidance documents, so we can see what for you seems the most important. Still, information campaigns are first in the first place. Gear marking comes the second, and now seems that will be also almost the first place. But it seems that gear marking is really important in this. So, okay, maybe someone else still wants to vote for these answers. Information campaigns still is on the first place. So it seems that we need more information and database and all the practical examples. What can be done to reduce gear loss is something that you mentioned as a priority, and then gear marking. And only then strategic gear setting practices, like avoiding problematic locations where this gear is put, and then only the maintenance and technology comes to your mind. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, some of you are already saying thank you and leaving. We are actually almost also closing this webinar, so we are very, very close to the end. And here I would like to ask if someone still wants to add something or comment something after already you reflected about these information campaigns a lot and the gear marking. Would you like still, if you have time and you are still here, to say something, or what comes to your mind about this information campaigns? What would be needed and how needed? Maybe you want to also say loud your thoughts about this. I will wait a few seconds if you will raise your hand or write something on our chat. So yeah, for those who are leaving already, and probably we'll close the seminar in a minute as well, I would like just to remind that everything what we have heard today will be recorded and will be available on HELCOM's website, also the presentations, and also the report summarizing key insights and recommendations from the webinar will be made available in the nearest future. But Lisa wants to say something, please.
Sorry, I was too slow, but I just wanted to add in terms of the input that was made on the importance of information sharing and awareness that together with HELCOM, Chemo and SWAM, we are actually preparing an awareness campaign focusing on recreational fisheries. So just HELCOM has that initiative underway already. So it's
also in the near future, we will see and hear about it, right?
Yes, exactly. So good to hear that you find that important.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Someone else wants to say something? Yes, about the Marta. Marta, please.
Yes, I'm thinking towards the future now. And first, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. It has been really great, a lot of information coming back and forth. So from the Secretariat, I would just like to thank you, all of you, for being here and for providing support. And this is not ending here. I wanted just to express that because we will utilize all the work, especially the Mentimeter. I think it's going to be very useful because we have some questions there very nicely prepared by Chemo on what is the role that HELCOM can take advancing on this topic. And the plan is to really utilize this together with the rest of the information and continue and transferring this information to the HELCOM forum to further discuss the topic, and especially in connection with the revision of the Regional Action Plan on marine litter, which is foreseen to happen during this year already. So thank you very much from my side. Thanks.
Thank you, Marta. And maybe something else someone else wants to say something. Well, we are receiving, thank you for arranging this good webinar, and presentations were very interesting and valuable contribution. Thank you really all for your very good and interesting presentations and very active participation in this webinar. Rudiger, you want to say something, please?
Yes, thank you, but very brief. I'd like to thank you all for being here, but also a big thank you to you, Sandra, for your excellent moderation as always. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Rudiger. It's nice always, as always, be part of your seminars or webinars. It's always very interesting also for me as a moderator. So if nobody wants to add something more, and we already have said so many things today, yes, once again, all presentations will be available. As we heard today, a lot of information still is needed, and HELCOM is preparing something that in the near future will be as well seen and used. Marking a fishing gear is very important, and as we heard, we can learn from different countries and regions a lot of things, and very practical things, starting from how to mark it to avoid mistakes on these marks and how to not be lost even in translations, as we heard from Swedish colleagues, if I understood correct. So I really wish you all the best to continue your work, and probably the fishing gear will be lost less and less, and the implementation of the new EU rules will be very successful. Thank you for being today here, and have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.